waste my life. I don't wanna waste my time. I don't wanna waste my life. Living in this world.
When the beats.
It's just some things, there's no going back. You know what I'm saying?
jwoodbeats.com.
Yeah, I'm not the one with the issues. I hear you. Now here is your tissue. If I'm moving too fast, I might have to dismiss you. And it's really too bad, cause I really will miss you. But I'm not the one with the issues. I left him at church when I made it official. I murdered the curse with my own benediction. Left God in the dirt, call it death of the fiction. Superstition will be served an eviction. Competition will be left in the ditch. Oh my God, it's too damn hot in this kitchen. The fishes of men are now swimming with fishes. Oops, my bad, I guess I'm moving too vicious. Verses sold, I gotta put them on your wish list. Bless my soul, cause I'm dodging your little hit list. I guess you know, you just lost another witness.
Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go right now. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, I'm out of here. I can do anything, fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epitome. My biggest hindrance was God can't do nothing but fail. Greater is me, I never needed your deity. All of this human capacity, when it gets rough, I can pick myself up and prevail. Cause I don't need anything other than people who fuck with me. Good business, it starts with good company. That's why your boy is obsessed with community. Cause greater is we. We can create opportunity. Doing what God never did, cause a God never could. But a people is all we need. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, yeah. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go right now. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go.
What's up, family? Happy Monday. I hope you all are doing wonderful. I hope you're having a great day. Man, it's Monday morning. How are y'all doing out there? How are y'all feeling? How are you living? How is life treating you? I know for me, it's busy. I'm getting ready at work in my day job, getting ready for our monthly business review tomorrow. So it's going to be a busy day for me today and tomorrow. So I figured instead of me pre-recording a video and trying to do the post-recording and all of that stuff, that I'd just jump in live this morning, share a few thoughts, holler at the people. What's up, Drewzilla? I see you out there. Yep. And that's just proof that this is live for those of you who are watching. Sometimes people jump on and they're not sure if it's live or not. But yeah, I hope y'all are doing well, man. I hope y'all are having a good day. I know last week was a rough week. I hope this week is getting off to a better start for many of you. And either way, we're gonna get through it together. As you're coming in, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider supporting, joining, or connecting with this community content or channel in any way that makes sense for you. And of course, check out the merch, because we have some of the dopest merch in the game. You know what I'm saying? It's fire. And we got some books, so check those out too. All right, so I wanted to jump in and talk about a few things today. So I'm going to be going back and forth between my notes and the studio. So I'll be checking, which I should have just pulled it up on the other computer. Let me do that while I am here. I'll pull this up on this side, so that way, even when I'm in my notes, I should still be able to see the chat. And I clicked the wrong thing. Didn't mean to do that. Let's go back. All right, y'all bear with me just a little bit. Let me get this pulled up over here. I gotta click the right stuff first. That would help. And actually, that alert notification was probably what I was looking for. Bam. So that way, if you're interactive with the chat, I'll be able to see you, even if I'm with my notes. I should have put up a poll for this, and I didn't. Normally, when we go live, I do try to put up a poll. All right, so what I kind of want to talk about a little bit this morning, and I'll just kind of flow with the conversation that comes in. But what I'm prepared to talk about are just some rules of engagement. Because I know last week, one of the biggest questions, and I think that was on the Wednesday morning live. One of the biggest questions was, how do we talk to people? And obviously the two biggest things that we do on this channel are community and conversations. And so people are very interested, into how to actually have conversations in such a polarized environment. And the thing that I like to remind people of is that polarization is nothing new. We all experience it across a variety of levels. It's not just something that we experience with things that are as huge as politics, but it's also something you can experience in your relationships with your friends, your family members, or even your partners. You can also experience it in business. I see it happen a lot. Especially when teams become siloed and things of that nature. So the big point is that it's nothing new. I think that's one of the things that objectivity kind of gives me, and it's one of the reasons I don't really jump on the bandwagons of sensationalism. Number one, I find it to have no real utility. Everybody just gets angry and everybody just gets mad at each other, and it's just like, now what? It's like, it's one of my biggest critiques of what has happened to art, that art itself has just become expression without any concern for elevation. And I hate to, because the statement I'm about to make is fallacious, right? And the statement is true art should always elevate. But that's obviously fallacious, because what is true art, But the art that I like is that is not just expressive, but it also has an elevating aspect to it. And that's the same way I feel about conversations. That's the same way I feel about how we engage each other. That the goal shouldn't just be to express, but the goal should be to elevate. Like if we were talking about it, I'd call it the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement would be to express yourself. Yes, share what you're feeling. You know what I'm saying? Yes, share that you're angry. Share that you're scared. Share that you're upset. Share that you're disappointed. But after we've done that expression, how do we now use our understanding of what we just expressed to elevate the situation? That's what I mean, like, when I describe myself as a progressive. I'm not interested in going back. I'm not interested in standing still. I'm damn sure not interested in the status quo. I'm interested in moving forward. As they used to say in the church world, I'm running on to see what the end gonna be. But that was a big question last week. How do we talk to each other? How do we engage each other? How do we talk to people that we disagree with? Especially on things that we've identified as vile. And it's a slippery slope, and it's a tight rope. Bars, like it's a good morning. It's, nothing is as easy as we want it to be. And I think oftentimes what people are looking for is like an X marks the spot solution. That as long as I get this, then we'll be good, But the type of conversations that we host on this channel, especially in the Sunday conversations, it often challenges us to rethink the way that we approach a lot of things. We did a series of conversations called How to Human. And we just kind of walked through the sociological evolution of humanity. And that conversation was so enlightening, but it also highlighted that we have a tendency to dehumanize each other over any difference. Doesn't matter what it is. And sometimes, and this is just something that I notice, we often become like the pot calling the kettle black, because we've determined that there is no reason to dehumanize someone unless they're doing something we don't like. And typically, that's what other people have decided too. That no, there's no reason to dehumanize someone unless there's someone I don't like, unless they're doing something I don't like. And it's just like, now that we know how easy it is to do, we should all be ever mindful of it. Sometimes I think, man, I like, art that makes me feel something. I know that's right. Giving me something I can feel. Oh, that gave me some music right there. But yeah, I think sometimes we think, and hey, we may get there. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't see us getting a planet, a globe, anytime within the next 100 years where everybody sees things the same way. And so I'm always shocked when I run across people who are shocked that other people don't see things the same way. Like, I cannot believe these people think this. Like, there's 8 billion people on this planet. Like, there's never been a time. Like, this is something we shouldn't even be shocked by anymore. Like, to me, and this is why I don't call out just religious thinking. I call out superstitious thinking. Because it's just superstitious to think that other people aren't going to think like you, and that the other people are going to think like you, and that if you just yell loud enough, they'll change their minds. That's not how mind change works, which what conversation, man, what series of conversations did we have about that? Where we talk about mind change, it basically exists within the illusion of safety that a person carries, and that's not, typically strangers aren't good at changing strangers' minds, so I'm always shocked at how many strangers are just trying to change random strangers' minds. And I'm like, here's a thought. Why not build relationship with people? Actually build relationship with people. Good morning, Trey. Nice to see you in here. Like that's where you start at. Like, I know it's hard, but like, that's the whole point. Like, nothing is easy. It's complicated. So the thing is, like, if you've made up in your mind that there is no reason to dehumanize people, if you've made up in your mind that you don't want to go backwards, that you are a progressive, that you're looking for ways to move forward, that you're looking for ways not only to express, but to elevate, then there's a few rules of engagement that I like to share with you and that we can talk about. There's actually a practice that I've adopted in my marriage for arguments that I think would be helpful for these types of conversations. When my wife and I are in an argument and things begin to get tense, I like to pose the question, are we staying together after this? That's the question, right? So in the middle of an argument, you're yelling at each other, you're getting angry, you're getting upset. And then I like to interrupt that with the question, are we staying together after this? And it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, we staying together after this. All right. If we are, let's talk to each other like we plan on living together after this. And I think that's what we as a species have got to learn. We've got to learn how to talk to each other like we plan on living together after this. Because we're kind of stuck on this planet together. You know what I'm saying? We're stuck here together. So we've got to learn how to talk to each other like we plan on living together after the disagreement, after the conflict, And then most times, that's for the intrapersonal, right? For the people you're talking with directly. But most times, people have developed these strong emotions about people that they don't even know. Everything they're learning about these people, they're learning through the media, through television. Like, you don't have, like, news is not a substitute for information. Like, I'm sorry, news is not a substitute for knowledge gaining, right? But we take it a step further and we attach ourselves to these strong emotions about people that we've never met. And then we take anybody who are aligned with those people in any way, and we attach those emotions to them too. And so then if you meet a random stranger who just mentions that other person, oh, you're triggered and you feel like you know something about that person. So The first rule is let's talk to each other like we plan on living together after this. And then the second rule is like recognize that you don't know people you've never met. I know that's a hard one for people, but like recognize that anybody you meet that you've never met, that you don't know anything about them, regardless of what you see, regardless of what label you want to attach to them, regardless of what label they may attach to themselves. You know what I'm saying? You don't know anything about them. You know, you don't know until it's been confirmed. You don't know until you've asked questions, until you've had the conversation. Yep. Absolutely. You take it and it becomes, it creates biases on other groups of people. And now we're out here. Much of the stuff I hear is so logically fallacious. I'm just like, oh man, I wish we could stop for a moment and just like let's get some rules in place, you know. I think a few months ago, I was gonna do a reading. Like I was gonna take a book, one of the books that I have, and just read it. And it's actually a great book. I think it's the Moral Landscape, but it's by Sam Harris. Sam Harris have said some things that are wildly unpopular for some people. Now, none of those things that he said are in that book. You know, that book predates those comments by a long shot. The content of that book has nothing to do with those comments. And I typically don't dehumanize people because a worldview that differs from mine. You know, I don't know, but I'm just different like that. No, I've heard the comments. Yeah, I've heard them. But I don't know. I hear comments I disagree with every day. If I invalidated everything someone said because of some things they said, then I wouldn't be listening to none of y'all motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody would have shit to say. Just don't say shit. Everybody just shut the fuck up. Because if you're wrong about one thing, you're now completely wrong about everything. Like that's just not how that works. And there are things that we have tried to attach to as highly objective, and they're actually highly subjective. And so, like, I'm just not going to fall in those traps with other people. But anyway, so I was just going to read the book. I just read chapter 1. Actually, I didn't even read the whole chapter. Nope, it wasn't even chapter 1. It was just the preface. I got so many ugly comments. Oh, man, I can't believe you're reading this book. In the critical thinking community, you can't believe that I'm reading a book. Like, wow. You know what I'm saying? I can't believe you're promoting Sam Harris. Oh, so by reading his book, I'm promoting him now. Are anybody catching the fallacies yet? You know, but that's this thing. So now, because I was reading a Sam Harris book, people leapfrog and said, oh, you must support Sam Harris. I'm just reading this book because I agree with the content in the book. You know, like that's how I approach knowledge. That's how I approach education. People approach things that way. Do you know how many people don't believe in evolution because they believe that Darwin was a racist? And I'm like, you do realize that Darwin could have been a racist and still could have been right about evolution. Like these are the most fallacious connections in the whole fucking world. Okay, I'm being hyperbolic here, but still. So recognize that you don't know people that you've never met. Stop letting the media tell you who others are. Stop letting the media tell you why they're doing what they're doing. You don't know that. One of the things that I see a lot of people say is everybody who vote for such and such, and I see this on all sides. You know, this even, you know, everybody who voted for third party was throwing their vote away. Everybody who voted for Kamala was voting for baby killers. You know, everybody who was voting for Trump was voting for racism and sexism. And it's just like, you do realize that the world is a lot more nuanced than that. You know, that's just, to me, that's just dangerous thinking. And that's what creates the type of conditions that we're in. You can't speak for everybody. You don't know why anybody who's not you did anything. And the only way you're going to figure it out is by talking and having the conversation. You don't get to tell other people why they did anything, but you can ask. If you ask like a jackass, you're probably not going to find out. As you find many of the poor fellows in my comments do find out. Typically, anytime somebody asks me something in good faith, I answer it. Or I'll tell them why I'm not going to answer it, because I don't do long conversations in the comments. That the utility of that just doesn't make sense. Again, I have a real life, like I don't want to say this is sacrificial, but it's damn near that. I get up early. If I'm not going live, I'm pre-recording the video, then jumping into work, and then trying to take my lunch break to do the production quality of the video, and then get that produced out, and then make sure I got my notes together for the next day's video, and then, of course, make sure that we have everything together for the Ex-Pastor call-in show, and then make sure that I got our notes together, because Sunday sessions is a huge commitment. Like we have themed conversations, like, you know what we're going to be talking about from week to week. There are notes and that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot of work, and it's damn near sacrificial, but I do this on purpose. But big point is, I have a real life. I work, I have 4 kids, I have a wife, I have a beagle, they all want my attention too, but I do this and have these type of conversations because I do believe they're important. I do believe we need some new conversations out here. I do believe we need to learn how to treat each other. Ever since I've kind of popped up on the scene, I've made it very, very clear. Oh, a beagle, not an eagle. Not an eagle. That would be cool, but I am scared of them motherfuckers. I wouldn't want an eagle. I don't trust them. Don't trust them at all. Oh, that's funny. I'd like to know how a vote for a guy who pulled a claim about Haitian migrants eating cats and dogs out of the air was not a vote for. Asking sincerely. Okay, well, that is, Kai, I know you think you're asking sincerely, but there's no way you're asking that sincerely if you're asking me. You'd have to ask the people who voted for him. But either way, that's an assumption. You're assuming I heard this is horrible, I see this as racism. You don't know what somebody else heard it as, right? Now, I agree. I heard it as racism. But as a person who lives on the world with 8 billion other people, I understand other people don't hear things the way that I do. And it's, and I don't know, maybe that's just my neurospicy, but I get it that other people don't think about the things that I think about. The things that I consider important, other people don't consider important. So believe it or not, for some people, the most important things on their minds was the economy. For other people, the most important things on their minds was abortion. For other people, the most important things on their minds were trans rights. The big point is we need to remember that we are not all the same. So we don't hear things the same. We don't process things the same. We don't respond to things the same. And I find it really shocking that we have to explain that to people in 2024. In 2024, to think that anybody else who heard it the exact same way that I heard it means that we haven't been doing a very good job of paying attention in life. Like surely in life, you've seen people that you were in a situation with, and that person saw that situation entirely different than you. Surely you've come across that by now. So we have to remember that if you don't know someone, you don't know why they did what they did. And just going around popularizing memes saying everybody who did this, that's not how you build a conversation. Not in good faith. Absolutely. Even if we agree, absolutely. Like, ain't no way in hell I'd vote for Trump. But by the same time, I know that other people are not voting for the same reason that I'm voting. I know other people are not touched by the same lived experiences that I'm touched by. And I know that people live people live locked into their real fallacies. And fallacies don't really change unless they get exposed, but they have to be exposed within some type of spectrum of safety. Otherwise, it just comes off defensive. And so we have to get really strategic about having these conversations, Yep. Public school primes us to stay on the same page, so seeing people out of your norm may elicit some assumptions. That is a very good call out. It's that whole idea of, because public school was very much about conformity, right? Walking a single file line. But then it took public school to me, and I think y'all have heard I've had some not so great things to say about public education. But to me, it did a lot of damage in a lot of ways. It propagated a lot of ideologies about humanity that were not accurate. And one of the biggest ones was this idea that there is a neurotypical norm, that there's a normative. And that's what makes it so difficult for us to understand when someone is different, even with all of the difference that we see, even with all of the difference that we see. And one of the things that I've tried to do on this channel is highlight just how much damage like these religious beliefs do to people and how it corrupts their version of good. And I know while Christians think that I'm doing that to attack them, I'm doing that in good faith, trying to give the secular community some insight into why some of these people think some of the way that they do. And so why there are certain conversations that standardized testing bullshit, hell yeah. Why some of the things that we say that we think are going to change their minds or that we think should elicit a response doesn't, But it's because there are some things that we've believed about religion that we're totally wrong about from the secular community. And honestly, I can't say we, that y'all believed as a former believer. I'm like, no. See, what you must understand is that if I was still a believer, I would have been absolutely torn between Trump and Kamala as a true believer. But see, like, I keep seeing these memes where people are like, if Jesus was here, he would be, and I'm like, y'all don't know. See, y'all talking about this, like, I don't know, like this, like ABC Family version of Jesus. You're not talking about the Jesus of Scripture. The people that are out there saying the things that they're saying, they're in line with their understanding of the Jesus of Scripture. And so you trying to tell them that you know more about their Jesus, who they talk to every day, that's not going to get them. They already know you don't talk to them. You're a non-believer. You're a heathen. You're a pagan. You're a Gentile. Oh, man. Who follow this or that belief, and that makes us defensive. I think you're absolutely right. And perhaps that's what gives me that different perspective. I mean, I was definitely harmed by this belief for sure. However, I was in a leadership position for so long. And so, yeah, no, but I get it because it's harmful. It's a damaging belief. Man. Yes. Okay. I love that. Somewhat paranoid. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, see, and I think that's what we have to do. Like, okay, so we're talking about external conversation. Let's come back to internal for a minute. Within internal conversations, within the community, we have to be able to have those conversations so we can flesh that out, right? Because some of our fears are unsubstantiated for sure, right? Like paranoia, like you mentioned. But then some of our fears are substantiated as well. And I'm not the person suggesting that none of the fears are valid, right? But the way we keep from falling into sensationalism is that we create those internal conversations where we can draw those lines between which of these fears are substantiated and which of these fears are unsubstantiated, or just us following a slippery slope. So we can put those on the back burner and focus on the substantiated fears, and then determine, because the only thing you could really do with that, in my opinion, the only healthy thing to do is, okay, what are we going to do about these substantiated fears, right? Restricted people could sometimes be classified as a mild form of paranoia. No, well, I think we'll see. Okay, but there's likely a connection with skepticism and paranoia too, right? And so, like, there's likely a correlation there. Preparedness, Carrie, absolutely. Like that's where we have to shift the conversation to. It's preparedness. Okay, so now y'all got me back on internal conversations. Like, so when we're talking internal, we need to be really dealing with what the realities are and preparing for what those real things are, those real problems are. And that allows people not to gaslight us. And you know what I'm saying? Like, there's two things I talked about: leapfrogging and fear mongering. And you're going to see a lot of that. And almost every time I see leapfrogging and fear mongering, I see money being siphoned out of poor communities every time. Because leapfrogging and fear mongering is always going to be asking you for money because there's nothing else you could do. So it's going to get you really upset about things that you are, quote unquote, powerless to do anything about. And then it's going to say, give me some money and I'll take care of it for you. And then it's probably going to keep on sending you that. Give me some more money. And you just keep giving me some money. I know you gave me some money last time. And so then, leapfrogging is skipping over issues that are actually impacting you and that you can actually do something about, and getting you upset about issues that are so far removed from you that there's literally nothing you can do about it, and not literally, but needing to have actual conversations with people. I think it's hard for us to do that when we're used to people refusing to take our ideas seriously. All right. So yes. All right. So let's get back into the external conversations. We're probably going to jump back and forth a little bit then, because you're right. That's the thing. It's learned experience. It is learned behavior, right? So our skepticism, our distrust of other people, it's valid. And that's the thing. I don't want to tell us that it's not valid. I just want to tell us that it's not healthy. No, we know where it comes from. It's a trauma response, right? It's a trauma response. We've all tried to talk to people about things that are important to us, and we've been there. My parents, my family, period, don't deal with me, will not talk to me, won't even stop by my house. So I get it. It's that stuff we've dealt with. It's that learned experience. It is valid. It's just not healthy. It's not healthy, But then again, what the fuck is healthy? See, that's another one of those things where, and that's the thing, like, please, I don't want anybody looking at me as the guy with all the answers. I'm not that guy. I'm just creating conversations, right? We're all likely, and this is the nuance of humanity, we're all likely going to take very different answers from this conversation, And so I don't feel the need for anybody to attach to my answers. That's right. That's so good, Carrie. To be cautious is sensible. To obsess isn't. That's right. Oh, that's good. I damn near got chills off of that one. I like it. So, all right. So back to these rules of engagement. The first one is talk to people like you plan on letting them live after that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if we're not killing each other after this, if we're not breaking up, if we're not kicking anybody off the planet, if we're not voting anybody off the island, then, and again, this stuff is definitely easier said than done, but it has to become an intention at some point to say, if we're going to be in this conversation, let's talk to each other like we still have to share this planet after the conversation. And then recognize that you don't know people that you've never met. So stop letting echo chambers tell you who others are. And yes, echo chambers are not just religious. There are entertainment echo chambers. I don't know. Do you know how many people think that Tupac is the greatest rapper in the whole world? Probably just as many people who think that Biggie Smalls is the greatest rapper in the whole world. And probably just as many people who think Nas is the greatest rapper in the whole world. Or probably people who think Rakim or Jay-Z or whoever else or LL Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out, is the greatest rapper in the world. Echo chambers are everywhere. None of us are exempt from them, not even those of us who are part of the secular community. Echo chambers happen really easily when everybody you're saying agrees with you. A very interesting phenomenon, and I'm probably going to take some flack for saying this, but I'm going to call it out, is a very interesting phenomenon that I watched during the election cycle. Y'all remember when Trump got shot in the ear and all of his supporters were like wearing a Band-Aid to support it, and we were calling that shit out as cultic? Did you see how many people in our community shared the exact same meme with the exact same words? Like, that shit isn't just as cultic. See that stuff like that, that's evidence of echo chambers. And I tend to stay away from that shit. You know, I'm the greatest rapper in the world. I love it. I love it. Oh, snap. You know, I rap a little bit. But yeah, we have to be mindful of that. Like one thing, and this isn't a, like, for me, it isn't 100% like accurate, but because this could be wrong, right? But by far and large, I always get a little cautious when everybody's saying the exact same thing. Like I have to pull out at that moment, because at that moment we're either being somebody in the room is either being dishonest, or at this moment we're no longer critically thinking. And either way, I'm not comfortable with that. I've been very clear that this is the reason why I left the church world. I'm not comfortable with those type of environments. I'm not comfortable in echo chambers. I need other people to be safe enough around me to tell me how they really feel. And this is selfish. This is selfish of me. I'm not, this is not some of y'all fix my life shit. This is just me being selfish. I need to know who the fuck I'm dealing with. I need to know what the fuck is going on around me. I don't like abstractions. I don't like things I don't understand, and that it's not a great thing. It's not a great habit, right? Which is funny because, you know, I come off as stoic, but I'm not really. It's because perfection doesn't exist in reality. That's right. That's right. Perfection doesn't exist in reality. It really doesn't. It's mythological. It's an illusion, you know? And so I don't need anybody to say things around me because they think I'm going to agree. Because I don't want to feel forced to do that around you. I want us to be honest, be able to be honest with each other. Even if that means I have to be vulnerable and show you a part of me that you may not like. But I think we have to find creative ways to show people that, you know what, you're safe around me, even if I don't like you. Like, and that seems to be like a hard thing to say. It seems to be a hard thing to commit to. Trust me, there are plenty of motherfuckers out here that I don't like, but they're safe around me because I'm that secure in myself. You know what I'm saying? Man. Yes, keeps you learning when you don't like not knowing, right? It does keep you learning. Pro-Palestine folks was boycotting Starbucks and even shaming people from buying stuff from them for no good reason. That's right. That is a great example. And it's easy to do, right? Like, it's just I think I don't know how many of y'all saw the show Good Place, but I think they did a good job of showing how complex being good really is, you know. Because the premise of the show, or not, I don't know what to say the premise, but the big idea of the show, where these people die and they go to this place that they think is the good place, and it turns out it's really not the good place, it's the bad place, and they're trying to torture them there. And then they end up finding out that there's a flaw in the system because everybody's going to the bad place, that no one has been to the good place in over 2,000 years. You know, they're just trying to figure out, okay, what's happened? Why is nobody making it in to the good place? And at first they thought that the people from the bad place, the demons, had rigged the system. But then they went down there and, you know, just started exploring what was going on. And the answer was, life is complicated. It's so many things. It's very hard not to support the things that you're against. You know, it's very hard. You buy a cup of coffee and you could be supporting child slavery. You know, child labor. I think that's what I was looking for. That's how complex things are. Buy a bottle of water, you could be killing the environment. Or at least that's how it ends up. That's the nuance that they end up kind of showing in that show. Well, including the ones who invested in it becoming law through a presidential campaign. I know that's right. Yes. All the company had done was call out a tweet by their workers union that was more or less condoning terrorism. They don't even operate in Israel. Wow. Man. But that's like the only brand around here. Right. Like it'd be like, oh man, yes. And that's that, and that's that leapfrogging, right? You know, and it's just like, whoa. And I remember they used to have commercials about this stuff. I think when I was in high school, maybe. Like people want to save the environment, and then they go out and they do something like they shut down a factory to save the environment, and then all the people lose their jobs, and then a whole bunch of people go into poverty, and then other people, something happens and the environment still doesn't get fixed. So you didn't actually solve a problem, you know. Man, they're boycotting their own town. Wow. How's your job at the KFC's closing for bankruptcy? Wow, man, that's rough. That's rough. And see, and to me, money is a politician's silent partner. And come on now, but see, and that's why I'm an advocate of community building, right? People don't want to drink Starbucks, and that's fine. I don't either. But boycotting a company over something they aren't even responsible for is just problematic. That is so true, because I think the thing that we often forget is that companies, just like people, are not monolithic. And so even when you boycott that company, you're not boycotting the company itself. You're boycotting the people who work at that company, you know. And I know that that's difficult. Like, and I'm not against boycotts. I haven't participated in any. I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna boycott Marvel after they got rid of Jonathan Majors. I was gonna boycott. I was so mad. I was heated. I was fuming because I am a Marvel fan. And I was like, the nerve, you know. But I did what I'm cautioning everybody about doing now. I assumed that I knew enough information to know why what was done was done. And I didn't. I know I didn't like what was done. I know the reasons that I thought likely played a part. But I also know that I wasn't in any board meetings. I wasn't at any of the planning conventions. So I don't know all the variables, you know. And I thought of like, what would be the utility of my boycott? And as a revolutionary, like that does feel like a bad question to ask. Like, you don't do it because there's a utility, but I am a pragmatist. I'm a pragmatic revolutionary, you know. Like, you know, the billions spent to enact 2025 came out of our purchases. Now that is, oh, there's that nuance in there, because that you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But again, that kind of takes me back to what I was saying. This is the importance of building community. And this is, you know, this comes out of my Black nationalism days, is that if you really want to create something, or if you really want to solve a problem, you're going to have to stop expecting the people who are creating the problem to solve it. That's like step number one. If you really want to solve a problem, you have to stop expecting the people who are creating the problem to solve it. You know, that just rarely works out. You know, like when someone's robbing you, it rarely works out where if you just say, hey, stop robbing me, that they say, oh, okay. You know, even if you say, stop robbing me, stop it, typically it don't work out that way. You know, I find that a lot of times our expectations politically are immature, you know. So it is better to kind of use a phrase from Malcolm X, that we learn how to solve our own problems, you know. So that's some advice from my Black nationalist days. And what that ultimately means is, I gotta pull my chat down, and an ad popped up, and now I can't see y'all. There we go. But what that ultimately means is that, which takes work. See, So many people are only short-term interested, short-term. I'm just interested about what they're doing right now, as opposed to likely what we should have been doing all along and what we should be committing to doing for the next 10, 15, ever, like that. Because as I kind of stated on last Wednesday, things don't happen because you want them to. They happen because you make them happen. Somebody has to be the catalyst for making things happen. And so if you don't like the direction that things are going, and I don't, that's why I'm like, no, we need to build community. And people, and I don't think people understand the power of community, This is why processing regarding a lot of interest simply doesn't work. Yeah. Campaign donors take can also change what people will pay to support publicly. Yeah. Do you think change happens? I think change happens in grassroots. Historically, that's what I've always seen. I've never seen change happen from the top down. The people in power typically don't like giving up their power, and it's rarely ever been, if you yell at them long enough, they'll change. Like, it just doesn't work, And the proof that it doesn't work is that the Democratic Party has been claiming that it's going to work for over 60 years and it still hasn't worked. That's like Jesus claiming to save the whole world, and yet the world is still not saved. So to me, I consider that stuff just kind of political superstition, which I had a debate with a woman who was running for Congress a few years back. And this is during my Black nationalist days. And unfortunately, I ate her lunch, but because we're talking and she's telling me about this plan that she has. And I asked her one question. I said, do you have any evidence of this plan working anywhere else? Crickets. And it's like, okay, so wait a minute. You're trying to get people to vote for you on a platform that you haven't even tested. You haven't even researched. Who gave you this script to say to us? Oh man, it was embarrassing. But what was more concerning to me is that most people don't even ask those type of questions. Like, how do you know this is going to work? You're just telling me this is going to work, but where has this ever worked? One of the reasons, so this is why I say community, grassroots. You have to start building your solutions. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's how long we've not been doing the work. We can't expect things that we haven't been doing to be happening, because it seems the main thing that we're speaking to is how much other people are doing, which also speaks to how much we've not been doing, Man, wake up and pay attention to what's going on in the world the hard way. That was like, oh man, that was my 2017 through 2020 whole type of epiphany. Was if you're creating bottom-up change, then you're no longer focused on the populace. Thinking that you can control the populace is the problem. That is the problem. That's the problem. Trying to change other people as opposed to looking for people who want the things that you want and working with them to make those things sustainable. Because right now there are few. It is so hard for me to find people to work on the things that they're complaining about. Because the majority of people that I run into, their ideology of this getting fixed is someone else fixing it. And what I'm trying to remind people of is, well, that's why it's not fixed. Because if you're expecting the people who it benefits to be broken to fix it, you're not using a logic doesn't get you there. Which this is stuff I've been screaming at the Black community for years. Expecting people who broke it to fix it. It's just like, no, no, we got to fix it. And we can, but we can. Let me switch it. I can. I don't know if you can, because I can't control what you believe about yourself. But I'm looking for other people who also believe that they can. Man. Yes. Well, there is a reason. Absolutely. To regulate an individual's rights to profit in accordance to everyone else's rights to exist is still capitalism. But yeah, but see, you're saying that you're saying like it's still capitalism. The assumption you're making is that everybody should be anti-capitalist. And I'm like, to me, that's kind of problematic thinking. I don't need anybody to be socialist, communist, or anything else. I find these labels as highly distracting. They don't really mean anything when you actually get people in conversation. It's just words we use to dehumanize other people. And typically I find it to be words we use to make us feel better about not doing anything. You know? But so no, like I don't have a problem with capitalism. I don't have a problem with socialism. I don't have a problem with communism. They're economic systems. That I don't. No, I don't. I don't think you're a communist to expect better laws and better practices. But your statement was it's still capitalism. You didn't say it's still bad capitalism, right? And my point was I don't care if it's capitalism, communism, or socialism, because I believe people have a right to be a part of whatever type of economic systems they want to be a part of. And I think the type of language that says, oh, you're a capitalist, you're a bad person, or you're a communist, you're a bad person, or you're a socialist, you're a bad person is a slippery slope. Because, like, I mean, wasn't that literally the Red Scare for this country? Where anybody who was a communist was evil? And so now I see so many people doing that, the same thing to capitalists. And I'm like, you still don't know enough about the people, you know, and the systems. Like, again, like I said, for me, they're just economic systems. So I don't attach any morality to those at all. Corruption can screw up all economic systems. Absolutely. And I mean, we have seen that. We do, Carrie, man. Okay, I got to come back to the studio because I need to put that one on the screen. Yep, we have multi-isms in all governments today, honestly. And that is the whole truth, which is why, like, so I do have a lot of supporters who are more communist, and they want more communist economic systems. And if you've been on my live, would any of them have jumped on because they want me to be the same way? And I'm like, I'm not necessarily. I don't attach myself to labels. When I got out the box, I got out of the box, right? And I want to stay out of the box. I don't want to be into anybody's box at all. But what I've always encouraged them to do is just like, well, experiment with it, right? Like you can, but it seems like, and so far I haven't found many who are willing to do that. There are some, like there's, what are they called now? They used to be called, well, they're an offshoot of the Republic of New Africa, which is from the 60s. And then they became, it was like the Cush Jackson something. And it might, but they're in Jackson, Mississippi. And they have collective, you know, they have a community cooperative, you know, and they're doing some work together. And so that's what I always encourage people to do. Instead of trying to force other people to agree that this way that you haven't even tested is a great way, which is the same thing I did with the Congresswoman. Why not actually, if you really, because this is the same thing I do it myself, right? Because for years, I slowed down my own progress waiting for people to support me. Like that was, you know, was like, well, I can't do anything until people support me, you know. I can't, you know, and after a while I realized like, oh, like I don't care about it enough to be doing it without their support. So what reason would they even have the support? You know? And it's like, I have to, if this is something I want to do, I have to care about it. And I got to care enough about it to actually do the work and to actually start experimenting with this. If nobody, even if nobody else does, because it's the work that I believe is important. And so that's what you see on my channel. You see 10 years of research, 10 years of dedication, 10 years of commitment, 10 years of experimenting. I've started artist collectives. I've started educational collectives. I've started spiritual collectives. I've done it all. I've been experimenting. I don't want to say I've done it all, because then it kind of like sounds like I'm trying to brag about my authority. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I've been fucking around with this shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm asking other people to do. I'm damn near begging other people to do it. Because I think the one thing that we don't want to admit to is that there are no clear answers, you know? So what we really need are more people experimenting so that we can have something to point to. We can say, hey, this collective in Texas, they tried this and they built built some things up. But the problem is we want to see that shit next year. But see, the only reality where we could see that shit next year is if we had been working on this shit for the past 10 years. And so, like, of course, y'all know me, I'm hyper productive, and I've told y'all why. And this is what I'm kind of telling everybody else too. I'm hyper productive because I realized I wasted a lot of time not being an active part of moving my life forward and moving this world forward, because I had bought into this mythical ideology that the world was in control and was in his hands. Didn't need my attention, you know? So now that I'm paying attention, I'm trying to catch the fuck up, right? But I have no illusions that catching up is going to be quick, because I realize how far behind I am. And I think that's the sober reality that the secular community has to realize, is that no, we're far behind. I mean, we've done some good work. We've done some good work, but we're still behind. So we got to work harder. We got to work faster. The secular community has to learn the rule that Black folk had to learn a long time ago. You're going to have to be twice as good to get half as much. It's just gravitational. Those are gravitational dynamics. All right, I went off a little bit. I'm sorry. Call for more scientific implementations of ideas rather than the blind Marx worship that it mutated into. Absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed. Man. Okay, so I got to scroll. Oh, I can do it over here because it's hard to scroll on that computer. All right. Yes. It's making life unnecessary harder because it's the norm. Yep. Oh, man. Have a backup plan in case these things go wrong. That's right. The way things work does guarantee that something will always go wrong that needs to be addressed. That is it. That is it. Yeah. And that's I think that's one of the things I've become comfortable with, you know, is that things will go wrong, you know. Things fall apart, in the words of one of my favorite authors, you know. But no, like when I was a preacher, I used to say the world leans toward chaos. And it's funny, I was using scientific principles, but I was trying to make it match the word, because I was like, it leans towards chaos because of the fall of man and, you know, bullshit like that. But no, now I just like, oh, it's just entropy. And we're, you know, like Planet of the Apes is like an autobiography. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is us telling our story. We're apes. You know, I think we often forget that. Think about, I mean, we're smart apes. We're great apes, but we're apes. You know, I think the first time I realized that, like, we're apes, everything made sense to me. The moment I realized, like, we're apes, it was just like, holy shit, Darante, bruh, you thought humans were this really, like, on a pedestal thing, bruh, and like, oh my goodness. You saw the other guy who wrote the book titled after that line. Actually, Chinua Achebe. It's a different one. Murphy's Law for sure. That's it. It is the potential, and that's a part of the reason I'm committed to like work. Right. In my other office, you'll see the thing behind me. It normally says, "Do the work, do it right, do your best, do the most." That's literally the way I approach life. Yeah. Yep. That was the other guy. Yep. But so that's why, because I realized, like, oh no, we do have a lot of work to do, and the work that we have to do, it's big work. But it can be rewarding. But we have to be ready See, I think a lot of times when I've seen, because I can't this part I can't speak to the secular community because my experience is limited there. But in community organizing, what I've seen is that a lot of people, and this is just kind of historically, when it comes to it, they want that instant gratification, right? So they want to come together and they want to work together, and then they want everything they're working for to be true and to be real and manifested by the next year. And like you all have mentioned, things go wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? And just from a project management perspective, there is no way I could knock out that timeline in a year of everything we need to get done, especially as scattered as we are right now. You know, we've got to, like I got a group of homies locally, all super talented as artists, varying artists, videography, photography, music, production, engineering, musician type stuff, singing, rapping. They're all amazing. And I mean, like, super duper talented. And I've given them one piece of advice, and they refuse to take this advice. And that's squad up. You know, why are y'all trying to divide and conquer? You know, you don't have enough pull to do that. When y'all could work together and create absolute masterpieces. Because the thing that you're going to be paying a manager for is to get you a team. And what you have, and those people who are around you, your friends, is a ready-made team. You already have a videographer, you have a photographer, you have engineers, and you mean to tell me y'all can't squad up and figure out how to work together? So many of our problems is that we haven't learned how to come together. And then when we do, it's just for bullshit. And to be honest, I'm okay with bullshit, right? We all need to bullshit every now and then. You know, we need to breathe. Like, whew. But when do we come together to strategize? When do we come together to organize? What was our Project 2025? What new initiatives are we launching? And then it's easy, like, right? It's easy to figure out why we don't have that many new initiatives because, like, well, we don't have that kind of money. We don't have that type of organization. We don't have that type of mobilization. Those are all things we can fix. We just can't fix them overnight, you know? Man. In an allegory sort of way. Yeah, I actually like that. It's a peaceful protest with minimal commitment required. I like that. I like that. Oh man, y'all got me all over the place today. Let me see if I can get back to these notes a little bit. Yeah. So I think that we started with basically recognize that you don't know people that you've never met, and really you don't know anybody until you've met them, regardless of what you think you know about them, right? But the other one is stop looking for enemies, and that's a hard one. But I refuse to have an enemy. I refuse to have an enemy. Not saying that there are people who don't like me and people who want to stop me or people who want to hurt me. I'm sure there are those out there. You're just not my enemy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I can go really dehumanizing here. Because honestly, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but I have a condescending side. And I can be very, very condescending. I try not to. It's one of those things that I work on. My wife calls it out a lot. I don't even realize I be doing it most of the times. You know, again, that's part of my neurospicy. But once something can be framed for me, then I can kind of get it. Like, oh, okay, I see how that would make them feel bad. Because I was just about to say, I don't have any enemies. Like, you know, like even if they're trying to hurt me, like ants bite me all the time. They're not my enemies. They're ants. You know, but that's condescending, right? Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to look at other people as ants. Oh, yes. Well, to another. Yeah, you know, that's it. It's just like, and it's hard because I know there are people who don't like me because of the color of my skin. I know that there are people who don't like me because I'm non-religious. I know that there are people who don't like me because I'm very vocal about my non-religion, but I won't let those people be my enemies. I may be their enemy, but I won't let them be my enemy. You know, I came up with a little saying years ago when having to deal with some very, very toxic family members. And it was, I treat everybody with the kindness of strangers. And it was actually my way of having to explain to people why, how it is that I dealt with people. Cause it's like, okay, but you don't even talk to these people at all. But when you see them in public, you don't have any ill will towards them. And I'm like, well, it's because to me, that's the lowest level that you can get in my worldview. Is the lowest thing that I can demote you to is a stranger. That's it. You're somebody I don't know. That's where I demote you to. There's nothing below that for me. There's no devil. There's no villain. There's no evil. You're a stranger to me. You know, as far as my personal relationships, and as far as the way I treat strangers, I treat all strangers with kindness. You know, hey, how you doing? Because my interaction with you is going to be brief. You know, yeah. You can either the kindest, warmest dude you ever met or the most cold-hearted motherfucker you ever met, depending on how I perceive you. Absolutely. Oh, respectfully, responsible, and with consent. I love that no matter the level. Yes. Is the true opposite. Yes. That apathy thing. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can be oh, yikes. Yeah. But that's real life because I can but I've learned over the years to just be I've learned how to be several different things and to embrace all of them, you know, and I enjoy it. I like being a jackass sometimes, you know. And you can blame comedians for that. Absolutely understood. But yeah, so when it comes to people, like I'm already sure that there are always going to be people on this planet who think something different than I think, you know, or um, want something different than what I want. Um, and I know that if I don't have an actual relationship with them, the likelihood of me being able to change their mind is not high. So my goal there becomes to find common ground, you know, if possible. And then if not, then they're just another stranger that I share this planet with. But I am intensely curious about different worldviews. But that goes back to that I can't live in an abstraction. Christianity for me for years, and this is like it was psychologically torturing for me, was me constantly thinking that I'm living in a reality that I don't live in. And like that shit, I don't like it. It's very uncomfortable for me. Like I'm about to wig the fuck out just thinking about it. Like it's not comfortable, you know. Oh yes. Yes. Um so I'm always curious or my goal, what I've learned how to do is to interview, not interrogate, you know. Now, the closer you are to me, the more that spectrum kind of shifts. I can, if I know you and then you doing some bullshit, I gotta interrogate this shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because we can talk like that. Because we're not strangers, right? We can talk like that. But like going to somebody you don't know and just be like, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? That's gonna start a fight, you know. Oh man. Oh, work drama, man. Word in support of humane. Yeah. The disabled are often discouraged from saying yes. That's exactly what they are, man. Oh man, yeah, I love it. I love it. See, now I don't even know what to talk about because we're talking about conversations, but we're also talking about community. Just the logistics of community. And again, it's not easy, but if we're intentional about it, we can make it happen. The logistics of community is you find people to have conversations with, and those conversations need to be about things that are important. Actually, I think I do have some of that in my notes. Do I? Do. Yes. You start with, and this is just a good way to start conversations off, period, with people that you've never met before, which is why sometimes online conversations are a little hard, especially when they're online conversations based off of our triggers. Like, I'm likely never going to really engage in conversations with a random stranger who shows up on my YouTube comments and says, I don't like that you're saying this. Because I'm just like, oh, poor buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be the first person you've ever heard say something that you don't like. But so it's just not a great place to start start a conversation with a person that you don't know. So great places to start conversations are personal interests, and personally significant desires. Simply showing what happens when their words are applied to those. Yes. Can it immediately be fun? It can. That's why I do have some grace, because I get it. It's fun. It's fun sometimes. Well, a lot of times. But then it just may not be healthy. We may be aggravating the situation sometimes. Because I know, but you start there. With building community, which that's why, if you notice, even though the Monday through Friday content is all talking about theology, religion, superstition, and stuff like that, the Sunday content is about personal development, and community growth. That's all those conversations are about. We talk a little bit about the religion aspect, but it's more so personal interest and creating conversations around what matters to people where they are. Because here's the conversation that I hear. This needs to change. We're not strong enough to change it. Well, see, that means then we need more conversations geared towards helping us getting strong enough to change it. And so while I would never stop anybody else from having the other conversations, and I try to have that nuance. Like, I know I have some strong opinions sometimes, and just in the spirit of Samuel L. Jackson, sometimes, I just add some motherfuckers in it. But no, I love the work that other people are doing. I love the other types of conversations that other people are doing. But if I keep hearing people saying, well, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this, then my mindset goes to, well, while they're having those conversations, I'll create conversations that help us get the things that we don't have. And so something that our Sunday sessions communities hears from me all the time is healthy people, healthy relationships, healthy outcomes. That's how you get there. We don't have the outcomes because we don't have the relationships, and we don't have the relationships because we don't have the people. So we have to get more intentional about valuing people than anything else, and get intentional about building relationships with people, and then abstracting value from those relationships. This is how communities become towns and become cities and become nations. But this is also how groups become teams, become companies, whatever. Like, these are the basic building blocks of organization. Conversations are the basic building blocks of community. Can't you? Yeah, that is so true, man. Yep. Well, see, that's why I just put in the bots. But yeah, so you with community, you want to start with personal interests and personally significant desires. Um, if anybody's trying to build intentional community, you really want to start with trying to help people be the best versions of themselves according to what that may mean for them, or at least creating an environment where they can do that work, and where they can have the encouragement to do that work by being able to share space with other people who are doing things as well. Building community around hot button issues is often dramatic but not effective. And Huey P. Newton wrote an entire manifesto about this. Ooh, why can't I remember the name of it? But ultimately, it's like the difference between being reactionary and revolutionary. Reactionary is we just address the hot button issue. Revolutionary is thinking about, well, what are the things that have contributed to this long term? I remember one time Fred Hampton, well, I don't remember, I wasn't there, obviously, but there was a YouTube video of Fred Hampton having a meeting with some of the local Panthers where he was. And they were, one of the guys had this idea, like, we need to get a bank. And Fred Hampton wasn't against the idea of getting a bank, but he was like, that's what's wrong with you motherfuckers. And this is why I often talk about leapfrog and shit, because this is where I get stuff from. Because he's like, if we had a bank, who gonna run it? And basically what he was telling them is that we haven't done the basics yet. We haven't done the basics. Now, I told you I'm not anti-capitalist, right? I'm not. But if I do have a problem with capitalism, it has been how it has so removed us from the true value of labor that we've totally forgotten the value of our own work, even when we, in fact, recognize that other people are profiting off of the value of our work. So it seems that we do know that there is value in our work, but at the same time, it seems that we don't quite know how to get that value out of our work. I want to be an ethical capitalist. I like that. I'm not mad at that at all. I would love, and this is something that I'm experimenting with, like in my head. And I've been trying to wrap my head around this, like probably since I was a junior in undergrad. Is like, what would be the best economic system? And it's only in my later years, and I say later like I'm an old man. I'm getting up there, but it's only in my later years that I realized that pursuit was flawed to begin with. The word best was problematic. Like, best for who? Best for when? Best for what? And so I ultimately, and this is just part of my experience, part of my experience with church and part of my experience with studying revolutionary movements. I prefer a governmental infrastructure that allows for the existence of several economic systems. I could speak to plenty of the weaknesses of capitalism, but I could also speak to a few of the strengths of capitalism. I could speak to plenty of the weaknesses of communism, but I could also speak to plenty of the strengths of communism. Adding the word of which is best is all about preference. And because I've definitely adopted this worldview that I am just a blind man touching an elephant surrounded by other blind people who are also touching the same big ass elephant, I approach life from the standpoint that to say that I don't know enough. Like that's literally my approach in life. I don't know enough, and I think that's part of what kind of makes me like a viper in conversations with people, because it's really easy for me to recognize when someone is saying some shit that they don't know enough to be saying, because I'm always myself trying to be cautious not to say some shit that I don't know enough to be saying. All right? Can I afford rent and a vacation? Bruh, I ain't been on vacation in so long, and y'all don't want to know how much my rent is. Generally seems to be chronically undervalued. Kai, I think you and I have a lot of commonalities. Like intellect in where I live is highly undervalued, and then like even some of the places, because I've had a very dysfunctional life, if y'all didn't know, so I've moved around a lot. But even when I were around people who had degrees that looked like me, in these particular places that I live, they were still anti-intellectual. And it was very terrifying for me, which is why, like, I'm not comfortable with pseudo intelligence. I'm damn near like violently against it because it damaged me, it harmed me. Like, who hurt you? Pseudo intelligence did. You know, if you've been hurt by pseudo intelligence, you may be entitled to compensation. But no, so no, I get it. I get it. So fun and easy to educate a child on these topics and mass media, maybe. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here are things that you can do as community. Like, and of course, this means intentionally. There's two ways that this has to happen. All right. So I'm gonna. Y'all ready for this? You either have to, if you want to be a part of the solution. Yes, that felt preachy, right? You want to be a part of the solution. Yeah. Then get up off your ass and do something. See, now I feel like it's about to become a song. Felt like going into a little D'Angelo flow. But no. Michigan, yes. MAGA house troll tells me how woke I am and easily influenced. Oh my goodness. Yes. Like that BS numerology. Oh my God. Yes. Man. Oh my goodness. Okay. So first, you're going to have to try to find as many people as you can locally that can talk like that, that are interested in being active, And again, just kind of going back earlier, if you go around and you try to gather people and you say, I'm looking for people to build community around protecting abortion rights, that's probably not going to get you as far. Right. And when I say that, what I mean is I'm not saying that people won't sign up for that. That's not what I'm saying. Nor am I saying that's not a worthy cause. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's not sustainable enough it's not inclusive enough to be sustainable. And community doesn't attach itself to solve one problem. That's the beauty of community. Community builds itself to attack all of the problems that impact the community. So you look for people who are interested in making the community a better place without superstition. You know what I'm saying? You look for people who are trying to find a safe space for themselves without superstition. And then you use that safe space, you find those group of people, and you start building those conversations, and you start inviting others, and you become very missional in your approach. And when I say missional, what I mean is you look for opportunities to make a difference and you do it. The smaller your numbers, the smaller the impact you'll make. But that's okay, because there are simple things you can do that gives you visibility and that let people know that, no, you're out here to make a difference. Small things you can do is like adopting a teacher's lunch. Those things make a difference, Small things you can do is like providing snacks for after school kids. Those things make a difference. Those are things you do if you just got a group of 3 to 5 people or 5 to 10 people. You start getting active. Now, your regular conversations really need to be about personal growth and development, because again, every movement that has tried to build itself on the outcomes without building itself on the development of the people has failed. Even one of my favorite movements, which was a movement from the 20s, was actually known as the New Negro Movement, became known as the Harlem Renaissance. And that was kind of like the whitewashed version. But it was a movement basically orchestrated by Hubert Henry Harrison, who was a Black atheist, and led by Marcus Garvey, who was call him an opportunist when it comes to religion. But he was brilliant with it and built Marcus Garvey built the largest African-American organization ever. There hasn't been one like that since. Wow. But as large And that thing grew fast, man. That thing grew fast. But there was no focus on personal development, you know? And the thing is, like, and that kind of goes back to what Fred Hampton was trying to call his group to when they were talking about, yo, we need to get a bank. And it's just like, oh, whoa, slow your horses. Let's build ourselves up to that, you know? But that's how a lot of those movements have fallen, and even the nonviolent movements, because of course Garvey's movement was a nonviolent movement. You know, I think one of the reasons it was as successful as it was is because it was nonviolent. You know, but it's just assuming that people are equipped to do what they need to do while recognizing that people have been under-equipped. It's just like that's bad math. And so you really want the majority of your conversations as a community, as a growing community, to be focused around personal growth and development, and then around community development and outreach. That's where those conversations start. And number one, because those are attractive conversations, those are engaging, and those are highly helpful. You know, that's what's going to get us healthy people and healthy relationships. We then use those healthy relationships to get to healthy outcomes, because then as your community grows with healthy people, people will have their passion projects, and then they'll have a support system that is that community to help fund those passion projects, to help support those passion projects with volunteers, you know? And again, I'm not saying any of this is easy. I'm just saying it's necessary, man. Oh, Jordan Peterson, for sure. Oh, man. We'll have a following. That is so true. That is so true. So yeah, but you start there, and the larger you grow your community, and you have to be intentional about it. That's what I'm pushing for, right? This isn't the only strategy. I'm sure other people have other strategy out there. I just think community is the strategy I'm going for. So you find people, but then what do you say? Like, well, I can't find anybody. You got to find somebody, or you got to move. Yeah, move to where people are. But I'm not going to just leave you like that. Those are my options too. Because I am so serious about this. Like, this was a conversation my wife and I had. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing my wife and I was talking about this week, which I've been kind of getting on to myself about saying my wife a lot. I'm like, she has a name. You know, she's not property. But Darnea and I, my wife, we've been talking. See, look, I still had to come back and throw my wife in there. But what we were talking about this week, because I am so committed to community and building it and actually experimenting with this even more than we already have, is, of course, you know, we have a map of where all of our supporters are. And that map we're kind of monitoring. And this week we decided, or Leaf Soft decided, that that's likely where we pick where we move to, because we're likely not going to stay here. Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you for saying that. Yay. Bottom art that has no right to be called art. That's hilarious. But so we decided that we'd actually use that map to determine where we're going to move to next. Because we're likely not going to stay where we are now. And that's not because there's not any people here. There are a few scattered in between. Most of them are not really interested in community that I've seen. And then, of course, I don't have the bandwidth to do everything that I really need to do. And so I really need a team. Those are the logistics. But then this is also I learned from my church growth days. Now, my church, which I did pastor in this city that we're living in now, actually became the fastest growing church in this city. And likely, if I was still pastoring, it'd be one of the largest in this city. But this isn't a very large city. And so I'm going to tell you, here's a little secret that the mega churches typically go by, like the ones that start their own churches. they work with the math, you know. They go to the cities where they feel like they'll have the highest chances of success, you know, which is just smart. Like it sounded sneaky the first time I heard it, but that's because the first time I heard it, I was still superstitious. And I'm just like, no, God is just supposed to lead you to a city. You know, this is cheating. You're not just supposed to go pick some place because you know there's going to be a lot of people there. What sense is that using good sense to make a decision? No, you're supposed to pray about that shit. I was that kind of guy. I was righteously offended when I figured out that these people cheating. The Lord told me to start my church in Dothan, but they out here looking at a map with population data and demographic statistics and determining, oh yeah, we'll have the highest chances of success here. And I'm like, damn, look at me this whole damn time, you know. But yeah. But the Great Lakes. What do they call Cleveland? The mistake on the lake. That's what one of my mentors used to say. Dale, good morning. Good morning. Dang, I forgot what I was saying, y'all. It was something. We'll chase that rabbit. How much more time do I have? Let me check. Oh man, I hope everything goes well. Okay, I'm good. I am good there. But yeah, what we talking about? Honestly, I was just trying to remember what I was talking about a few minutes ago. But I know we were talking about community, and we're talking about conversations. We talked about a few rules of engagement with conversations. I used something that my wife and I adopted as a practice anytime we're having arguments or tense conversations, is if the conversation is getting elevated, we'll ask ourselves, are we staying together after this or not? You know, and after we answer that question, then let's talk to each other like we're still living together after this. And that's one of the rules of engagements I like to share with people. When you're dealing with people in conflict and crisis, just find ways to talk to each other like you still got to live together after this, you know, because that's our reality on this planet. You know, we all got to live together after this. So let's learn how to talk to each other like we got to share this motherfucker, you know. You know, because it's real easy to get caught up in the tension and just allow yourself to get boasted and just start saying stuff that makes it hard to coexist after that, you know. So you don't want to set yourself up for that, and we do it a lot as people, right? Man, right? Kyle done snuck in here. I love it, man. We're just hanging out, just talking, conversations in community, man. Talking about how building community isn't an overnight solution, but damn, it's one of the best chances we got. Oh, and that's what I was saying, is that I was talking about how I was laughing at the fact that I thought, like, when I found out that churches that were more successful were actually being strategic about how they launched their churches, I was so offended, because I was like, how dare you not be led by the Spirit of God in this? How dare you pick a map and choose where you're going to plant your church by population demographics? How dare you use sense? That was my thinking back then. But it's also that same type of thinking now, where my wife and I have been talking about, instead of grounding our efforts in the area that we're in, since we've been keeping a map of where we have people who support the work that we're doing, we're likely going to move to one of those areas and ground the work there. Just make more sense. Like right now, it would be California, Texas, Florida, or Virginia. Those are, interestingly enough, those places right now, that may change, have the highest number of supporters. Man, you know what? Like, I'd love to be back up north. I do miss the snow. I don't miss Southeast DC as much. But yeah, right now we have so many people in North California and Southern California. And that blew my mind. Like, I'm actually getting more acquainted with how big these fucking states are now with looking at the map of where we are on it. Man, Louisiana has 2 on there. It's also we got another Detroit. Okay. Let me make sure I star these so I can remember this. Yeah, because I'm damn sure gonna be watching. I'm gonna be watching the map, and honestly, where we see the most activity at, that's likely where we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna go there. And that's strategy, right? I ain't trying to flatter nobody, because honestly, I'm not that important. I'm not that exciting. I'm probably very boring in real life. Like, most of y'all be like, damn, can we just watch him on TV? Because in life, this nigga is boring. I'm just like, because this is what I do. I sit at my computer and I work. That's what I do. And every now and then I go out and take a smoke break. Now, when I'm smoking the green, I don't have to go outside, so I don't have to take a smoke break for that. Despise the cold and dark. Yeah. Actually, last time I drove in the snow, I was driving a car that shouldn't be driven on any road, but the brakes went out, and it could have ended badly. But apparently I'm really good with reflexes, and I hyper focus. Right, that's another thing about being hyper productive. If you ever see me on a roller coaster, you know, not most people, I don't want to say most, that's how you create those typical norms. But you know how, like, the imagery of people on a roller coaster is people yelling and and I'm having so much fun. When I'm on a roller coaster, I'm like this. I am hyper focused, right? So when my brakes went out on the snow and on these icy ass roads, that's what I went into hyper focus, you know. And like, holy crap, like, narrowly made it through 2 trees. The only thing I lost was my mirror. Lost my mirror. Oh man, drove in a blizzard for some. Oh man, for some fun time. Oh man, they are. We've all been there. Yeah. Like, I grew up. My granny. She's actually my great auntie, but I called her granny because she played a part in raising my mom and raising me. But she used to say I was evil because my nose sweated. I don't know why. But her grandmother was a root woman, so maybe she knew something I didn't know. Oh man. But yeah. So because of that, like, strategically wise, because like I want these things to happen, and I want them to happen as fast as they can. I'm definitely gonna play to the numbers. So I went there to say, like, no, I know the reality that it might be isolating where you are. You know, I would still encourage to do the work to find people, and you'll discover that I've definitely done that here. I've done the work to find people here, and in most cases, I can do it. My real issue is that I can't find other leaders, and because this is a city that I used to be a pastor in, I am 100% averse to that type of situation. You know, because that's what people in this area. If I'm speaking publicly, unless I'm being just highly irreverent, people are still going to see me as their pastor in this area. And that's, damn, I don't think I've ever said it like this before, but that's triggering for me. I don't want to be seen as anybody's pastor, you know. Being a pastor was not fun. It was not healthy. You know, it is like, it kills your ego. It's so many pastors become narcissists because their ego takes so many hits, especially, like, damn, I was gonna say especially if you started your church from the ground up, but it's not even that. Even if you got hired at a church that already existed, there's so much of you that's attached to people's ups and downs. There's so much of you that's attached to the church's ups and downs. There's so much of you that's attached to the city's ups and downs, depending on the type of church you have. And so if the city is doing bad, it might be your fault. If the church is doing bad, it might be your fault. If there are members in your church who are not living a godly life, it's your fault. If there's members in your church who are struggling financially, it's your fault. If there are members in your church who are doing domestic violence and shit, it's because you're not a good pastor. If there are people who are leaving your church, it's because you're not a good person. To have those type of nuances in an environment where there is no healthy psychological evaluation and assessment of people, and that there is no mitigation for that, is highly dangerous. And so like that's one of the biggest reasons why like I don't want to do anything in this city where I am, because so many people here will just try to treat me like their pastor, and I don't. Nope, please don't do that. When it comes to that, I'd be like Jesus when Mary tried to hug him after he resurrected. Do not touch me. I just like picking at that scene. I don't know why. And for whatever reason, I imagine Dave Chappelle doing it. Like when I imagine Jesus, I imagine Dave Chappelle. I don't know what you all see when maybe you see Jim Cavazos. I see Dave Chappelle. I do. Damn, that's funny. All right. Okay. I lost myself a little bit there. But yeah, because what we're talking about is ways to actually get started with building community, and the biggest place is conversations. If you're trying to have conversations with people for like, hey, let's start a center or let's start a group or whatever to solve this one issue, you probably won't do a good job of building long-term sustainable community. But you start something to say, hey, let's just come together and do our best to be our best and to do our best work. And let's create conversations around that. And then let's empower each other to make those things happen. Because really, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. The more people, well, it's a numbers and a commitment game, right? Like everybody can show up. So you'd be surprised what 10 people can do together, just 10 people, you know? And then if those 10 people are really passionate about what they're doing, so just 10 people coming together every week, having conversations where they're working on each other, you know, and working on themselves. And, you know, and it's almost like group therapy, right? Because believe it or not, people not only need those type of conversations, they actually crave them, you know, because we're a social species, we're social animals. And none of us want to be fucked up. We've just many of us have been convinced that those are the only options, that you're a fucked up person and there's nothing you can do about it. And then having community conversations often shows people, oh, I'm not as fucked up as I thought I was. Or it will show you that, oh, other people are just as fucked up as me. And either way, you end up feeling safe. You know, you end up feeling safe to explore, safe to share. And because that's really what community does. Like Christians don't judge each other internally in their in groups, like the way they judge people in their out groups. You know, any of you that have ever been like a true believer, whatever the fuck that is, then you'll remember having conversations with some of your best Christian friends that you could share information with that about things that were not so Christian. And 9 times out of 10, they didn't like, you going to hell. They would be like, oh, I get it. You know, we all struggle. Because that's that human thing that we have. And when we create that safety for each other, it makes it easier for us to talk about the things that are uncomfortable for us, you know. But at the end of the day, it's always going to be about that safety aspect. Close to my age who are interested. Right. Yeah, that is that. Yeah, but maybe, yeah, it's not as shocking to me. It's sad to me, though. I do find that to be sad because it's such a big issue. It's such a big issue. Right? You know, like, what is that? I don't know. But like, but that's what you do. I think that's what our conversations are becoming for people on Sundays. I don't think anybody's literally a part of our conversations just because they like what I say so much. Because most of the time we don't craft our Sundays like lectures. We don't craft them like sermons. We craft them like conversations that we can all talk through, you know? And even when we start doing like local on-site in real life stuff, which I don't like that. I like the branding of it, but I don't like it because then that somehow suggests that this isn't real life. I'm real. But you know, but when we start doing like on-site stuff, I still want to keep that incorporated now, like in an experimental way, which I've always kind of been that person. I like to try different shit. But like to the point where no, we still have these like monitors or something on the stage where we can still see the chats coming up, so we can still engage with that shit. But no, I think people like those conversations because we're talking about things that are important to all of us, you know, that are not just important to some of us, but these are things that are important to all of us. The conversation series we're going into next is called The Work, where we're talking about the physics of change. Oh, this is going to be fun because y'all know, like, I'm a workaholic. And so I'm about to work that ass, boy. Now let me stop. But no, like, we're going to talk about work, and I want to get people excited about work. But then after that, we're going into a series. Well, actually, I think that series, that's the end of the year, called Human Economics. And a major part of the conversation we were talking about earlier, which was about economic systems, that's what we're going to be talking about in that whole conversation, about how to build cooperative economic systems that work for everybody who's a part of them. We're going to explore that conversation. I'm not showing up with all the answers, and I reject that type of pressure vehemently, and y'all see me do it all the time. I'm just willing to be the catalyst for the conversation so we can all get to talking, because that's the only way we find the answers. I'm the blind motherfucker touching the elephant, you know, so I got to talk to the other blind motherfuckers, and y'all are the other blind motherfuckers, you know? Oh, man. Kind of bizarre. Yeah. That may have something to do with a lot of the stigmatization too. And as I said, it's not shocking for me, but it is sad. It is sad, especially because even with the stigmatization, there's been more vocal support. So much so that, you know, everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon now, you know. So I would think that it would be more popular. Okay, so now I am shocked. Now I share your shock. I am there with you. I am there with you. Oh man, I'm getting hungry. But yeah, local issues can be addressed with a little intentional intention, you know, a little intentional attention. We live better together when we work together, and we work better together when we learn together. And so that's why I say conversations is kind of where everything starts at. Because if you start having conversations, especially conversations that are not necessarily about the big issues, but about the personal issues, and you start learning how we can work together on the personal issues. And y'all let me know, especially for those of you who are part of the Sunday sessions, let me know if I'm off base here, because I could be. But I think a part of what has been pulling our community together is these Sunday sessions where we're talking about the everyday issues of just being a human and trying to learn, or I don't want to say learn, but trying to relearn how to acclimate, that's it. Learn how to reacclimate to the world around us. Learning how to, like this year, we've had conversations like how to build secular community, how to human. We did Please Don't Stop the Music, like how to find some type of sense of harmony in the life of chaos. We've done trust issues, learning how to really get back to that place where you can trust yourself, learning what trusting others mean, exploring the difference between trust and truth. We're now in this conversation called Drive, where we're talking about different aspects of motivation, ambition, persistence, and what was it yesterday? Purpose. And it's all for the sake of helping people find their own personal strength so that they even feel safe being a part of a community, you know? And that's the inventory thing, you know, like, a lot of my favorite movements failed, again, which I think I've said this, so I'm kind of reiterating it. A lot of my favorite movements failed because there was no focus on the personal development, you know, and you can't have a healthy community without healthy people. You can't have a healthy movement without healthy people. And like that's really how you get a lot of sick people in leadership of movements, because there was never a focus on, are these people healthy? You know, yeah, yeah, I get it. Fill the gaps of what we thought church was. Oh, I like that. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Nothing really surprises me anymore. For the most part, yeah. When fear is the majority stakeholder in so many of us, yes. And that's I think that's so key. That's why it's just kind of hitting this thing of we have to create space, which that was the whole purpose of Bridge City, right? To create space. Space that's safe, that's soft, that's secure, and that's sound. And I felt like there was another S I wanted to add because I can go overboard with consonants and alliteration. I like shit like that. It speaks to me. I like patterns, But it's definitely starting there, and it's being as intentional about it as possible. And it's recognizing that it's going to be an uphill battle. It's recognizing that it's not easy and that we're going to have to work really, really hard. But if we're willing to work really, really hard, you'd be surprised at what we can accomplish. And I think that's where it starts. Like, I know I was working in my notes yesterday. That's on this computer. Working in my notes yesterday about just this more even missional aspect of Bridge City. I'm definitely going to be pushing like the watch parties more for Sundays and even our Wednesday shows, so we can create opportunity for people to start having more conversations, so they can start creating space where they are. But then also we're going to be looking at the map and looking for where we may want to make our next move to, because we work remotely. And our oldest kids are getting ready to graduate high school. So we have like, we have a little freedom to move around, and this is a commitment. To me, this is a mission worth committing to. And I'm damn sure committed to making it happen. I think it's necessary. I think Bridge City and the bridge is necessary. I think building secular community, I think building community beyond superstition is necessary. I think it is our ace in the hole. I think if we, oh man, like there's just so many things. My wife and I, as two people, started a school. We started a school that was incredibly impactful for about 7 to 10 kids. Because we're only two people. Can't do too many. But for about 7 to 10 kids, for about 3 years, our school was highly impactful for them. We did that as a nonprofit organization of 2 people. So imagine what 10 people can do. But then take it back to my pastoring days. My church, when we were about, we probably had about 150 members at that time. We did a gas giveaway that shut down the city. Now, that's not something I'd advocate anybody else doing. That's more of a, well, if you have extra resources to just do something that's visible, then sure, do that. Just know if you're doing that, it's not a real solution. It's just nice, It's just nice. It's helpful, it's nice. Good morning. I love it. I love it. I love it. To me, it's just like we do the work. I think sometimes people think that the conversations we have are just about the conversations, and I can see that. But I think the people who are becoming partners and leaders in the work that we're doing are starting to realize that, oh no, I get it. These conversations are the catalyst. It's the conversations that are helping us get more comfortable engaging with each other. It's the conversations that are helping us get more comfortable learning together. It's the conversations that are helping us just get more comfortable with each other, period. And that's what we need. And then as we go there, the conversations become more attractive, more engaging. People join in, and then our numbers start to grow. And as those numbers are growing, you start creating little small groups where people can talk about those issues that are really important to them, whether they're issues of social justice, whether they're issues of racial or gender or sexual identity, or whether they're just hobbies and interests. But that's how you get a community. And then, even beyond that, starts to grow out more. And then you say, all right, we have little branches of community everywhere. They're all working together in collective work, in cooperative economics. They're launching initiatives, And y'all know I've talked about some of the initiatives that I have, 'cause I can't stop thinking. You know, they're tackling homelessness in their local areas. It takes community to get there, you know. But community, it's not going to form just on its own. There has to be people who are willing to be the catalyst, you know. Ooh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So it sounds like they had a little bit of growth there, ways to human. I like that. Oh, that's funny. Grounding charity. Yep. Oh, I like that. It's my low key form of therapy. I always love that. Shut down the city. Oh man, Omnisaya. I like that. I like that. Okay, see, I'll get caught up in these chats, man. Y'all are too funny. Y'all are too funny. But yeah, it's and when talking about these things, I try purposefully not to go too specific because the possibilities are literally endless here, and communities will not always look alike, even when they're working together, you know. And that's my goal, is to build networks of many communities, some that are closely affiliated, some that are loosely affiliated. All need to be autonomous in my mind, but all need to be connected, you know. And that's how we can accelerate some things, you know. Oh, really? Okay, so now I'm definitely gonna have to look that up. I'm gonna have to look that up. I've got the that's one thing, more like a league. That's one thing. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yes. The word had to kick in for me. Because I think the UNIA initially started as a league. And that's what my goal is for the bridge. The bridge is that's my mindset there. But then I also have Help and Hope. I have Together We Can. I have DLDD World Group. I have Omniverse. That's why Omnisaya stood out to me. Uh, but no, like, it's, you know, just it's getting together and experimenting with the things that you care about, you know. Like, so when I pastored a church, a lot of the things that we did that were outreach based, they weren't things that were in our charter. They weren't things that we were that were necessarily a part of our every Sunday conversation type of thing. There were things that meant something to the members of our church. Like the first time we participated in something called a homeless stand down, it was because someone in our church said, "Hey, I would like for our church to do something to have a positive impact on, you know, the state of homelessness in this city." And when they said that, well, we got 100 or so people here. Let's get together and see what we can do to do something. And just that little bit, we were able to get bags and bags and bags and bags and bags of clothes, socks. We were able to bring people together. We were able to inventory our church to see how many barbers we had, to see how many hairstylists we had, and say, okay, can we get you to volunteer your time and your services on this day when we participate in the homeless stand down? Like, that's, you know, and that's why I caution people against trying to build community around niche ideas, and instead just build the community around more broader ideas so that you have more people to support the niche ideas, you know. So I'm sure there were people in my church who weren't as passionate about helping homeless people. I'm sure they wanted to help, but it just wasn't a passion for them. And so if I had started my church around, hey, we're the church around helping homeless people, if that was what the church was branded as, we would have got a lot of people who were super duper passionate about helping homeless people. But the people who were not as passionate about that would have likely not ever come to that church. But because we weren't built around a niche issue, you know, and I think that's really how churches are beating everybody else. Like, as far as growth, those mega churches, because they're not organized around a niche issue. They're organized just around living your best life, you know, with a little bit of Jesus sprinkled on top of that bitch, you know. But I say bitch too much. I got to pull back on that one. I be uncomfortable every time I say it. Oh man. Oh man. Damn it. Now I forgot what I was saying. I'm sure. Damn, I've been on here for 2 hours. I've been on here for y'all got 2 hours out of me today. Y'all got 2 hours out of me today. Oh. Dang. Oh. Okay. 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 Yeah, I'm reading over the comments. I can finally see them on this side. But yeah, so y'all know almost every time you see me, that's going to be the thing. Build community, have conversations. Don't try to instead of building around the niche, build around people. You know, be the community for people. You know, and then you will have more people. So because we did that, that's where I was going. You see how I walked that thing back? Good like that. But damn it, don't lose it again. That's why we were able to do the things that we were able to do as far as supporting the community. The people who joined the church, like we said, hey guys, some people in the church thought it would be a great idea for us to make an impact on homelessness. And it was just like, all right, cool. What do we need to do? Just if you can donate some clothes, you can do that. If you can donate some money, you can always do that. If you can donate your time to help us give out some of these things, you can do that. If you can donate your services, maybe you can do that. Do you have anything you can do that you think some of these people would benefit from? That would be valuable. Can you cook? And then so that's what you get. And so then we had people helping who weren't necessarily passionate about the thing that we were helping about. Like, again, the barbers, the stylists, they're passionate about barbering and had never thought in their lives that there was anything they could do with their barbering that could make a positive. Like, I'm sure as a barber, they would never like driving down and just be like, oh, there's a homeless person. Let me go see if they need a free haircut today. You know what I'm saying? There may be some barbers with some really good hearts like that, but you know, it's likely not what they thought. But then when they got that opportunity in church, it was just like, oh, cool. Like we had people who weren't passionate about, they weren't passionate about solving homelessness, but they were passionate about feeding people. And so when we did this program, there were people who signed up to just say, hey, I'm going to cook for them. If I can get some other people in the church who will bring me this, this, and this, I'm going to cook for them. And then what other people say is, well, you know, I like to cook too, shoot. You know, because when you start cooking, you just know you also going to get to eat. So that's always a good place to be, you know. But so you cook and you have and all this came together because you had this community of diverse people with diverse interests that you didn't necessarily feel like you had to make anybody feel obligated to feel a certain way. It was just, hey, we're a community of people who are really trying to make a difference. Here's one of the ways that we can make a difference. Who's willing to help? Asking that question in a room of 10 people or a room of 30 people or a room of 100 people is so much easier than asking that question to strangers. You know? And I think and that's why I say we got to do the work of community. Because when we do the work of the community, when we do the work of community, because that's really almost all of the things that and you know, anytime you hear anybody doing all of, you already know it's hyperbolic, right? So I'm being exaggerative here, but almost all of the things that we complain about equal lack of community. Well, we don't have this because we don't have community. Well, we don't have this. Well, because we don't have community. Well, we don't have this either. Well, it's because we don't have community. The way we get these things is through community. Well, how do we get community? We actually have to do the work. And the work isn't easy. This is coming from somebody, like, people don't get it. Like, that's all pastoring is. It's community building with fan fiction. It's community building with fan fiction. Oh, they have like events like that. What is that called? Like, damn, it's not just cosplay. Like, they have the little festivals where they cosplay and it's like a fair, a medieval fair type of thing. I don't know. But that's what church is. It's a fan fiction community building apparatus. That is interesting. But no. So pastoring is community building. And so like when I say it's hard, I get it, but it's also necessary. It's also necessary. But it's no different than any other social or political movement. Every social or political movement that has ever existed that has gotten any level of success had to start with building basic building blocks of community, you know, because people have to be able to have conversations and they got to work together. That's right. Hard work can be fun and satisfying work. That's where I live. Live action role play. Yes. That's where I live. Like let's do the work to get the results that we want, you know? Even if that means we have to do some things that are inconvenient. But like I said, I know this isn't going to happen overnight. You know, I'm aware of that. But I know it can happen faster than most people think. The things that I have to navigate as a former pastor is making sure that with the community that we're trying to create, that it doesn't lean. Like, I'm not worried about the superstitious stuff because I'm already vehemently as anti-superstitious as they become. So I'm not worried about superstition. I'm not worried about hierarchy. Industrial organizational psychology is kind of my bread and butter. And so I've learned quite a bit about how to structure organizations where they are, I like to call it middle out, you know, which, yes, I did steal that from Silicon Valley, if anybody caught that reference. But I do like to use the middle out approach with things. So I like to build stuff that works ultimately around circles instead of pyramids. But that's a whole nother story that I could talk about. Pyramids and circles. They're related. But I prefer circles instead of pyramids. I don't like top down. I don't like up and down structures. Because they're not parallel with real life. But I'm like that even with my work life, and I've been like that for quite a while. I remember I used to be a manager at an enterprise and enterprise rental car, yeah. And somebody asked to speak to the district manager, and she was like, "I want to speak to your district manager." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have a district manager. Enterprise has a district manager. Okay? I manage me. If you want to speak to my manager, you're speaking to him. It's me. Hello, how are you doing? I'm the person that manages Darante LaMar Martin. How can I help you today?" And I am very much like that. I don't, which I've been like that somewhat since I was a kid too. Authority doesn't, I have no problem with authority. I have a problem with misplaced authority, you know, but I'm like, nah, I don't, but I tell my team that I constantly remind my team, like, I'm not your boss. You don't work for me. You work with me. You work for you. You're here because you got bills. You're here because this is a position that you aimed for. You know, you're not working for me. And the moment you think you're working for me, you have already stopped working for yourself. You're working with me. And that's how I treat anybody who's higher up the ladder than I am. I remind them very quickly, oh no, I don't work for you. I work with you. That's the world that I prefer to live in, where nobody's above anybody. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just not reality. It's not. You're not above me. You have a different position than I do. Like, I don't care how you got your organizational chart drawn out. Just because you put your name above my name on paper, don't mean you're above me. It just means you can make different decisions in this company than I can. You know, but that's how I like to treat everybody. So I'm not worried about the hierarchy or the superstition. What I'm most worried about with building community as a former pastor is burnout for other people, and the aversion to burnout and the aversion to being used, which is why anybody who has had an opportunity to work with me closely knows that I'm super gracious, because I'm highly aware of the things that people don't talk about with church. And that's how church dominated people's time, you know. And I'm highly aware that we don't, like we actually, like we need to be doing more than we're doing for sure. Like we need to. But you got to prioritize people. And so that is going to be part of the thing that slows it down, but I think that's necessary. Back in my pastoring days, I just used the thus saith the Lord thing. No, God says you need to be here. God says you need to be committed. If you be faithful with a few things, God will make you ruler over many things. Yeah. All that stuff, which I didn't really do that, but but no. So I've been very intentional that everything is we're going to grow at the pace of the community, So I'm never like, number one, like we don't have this attendance is necessary mentality, but that's also because I told you I'm very resistant to being anybody's pastor. So I don't have those ego attachments anymore. As a pastor, you missed one of my services. I'm like, oh my God, why wasn't such and such here? I must have said something that made them mad last Sunday. Or maybe they're backslidden and the devil has got them. Or maybe somebody else's church has got them. You go through all that shit. And it's just like, maybe they just didn't feel like coming today. Everybody ain't got to be a slave to this place because I am, But so like, now I'm just like, no, like I don't really need people like that. You got to be working smarter, not merely harder. Yeah, for damn sure. Do well to take heed for sure. So yeah, yeah, you're right about that. Damn sure, right? That kicked in a little late for me. Might have ended up committing. Right? Yes. It was dangerous. It was damaging, and a lot of pastors. I want to use the words "take advantage," but it's so hard with all of the nuance. Some did for sure, like that's clear. But some of them likely thought they were. Well, I know I did. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. But so that's really what I'm most averse to now. Right when born and raised Pentecostal, you see that shit coming from a mile away, man. Oh man. But yeah, yeah. So it's just like the biggest thing now is that's why we're gonna be slow, because I'm not gonna be demanding of anybody's time. That's just I can't do that. We have to be a fellowship of equals, and we move forward together. We move forward at the pace. Sure, I have a bunch of vision. I have a bunch of ideas. I have a bunch of plans for infrastructure, but we got to move at the pace of the team. And it's just like you value the people. Y'all have heard me say it before. It's the people, stupid. All right, so I got 15 minutes before I have to jump into a meeting and talk about this monthly business review that's taking place tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and jump. But thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining, connecting, or supporting this community channel or content in any way that makes sense to you. And then check out the merch, bruh. It's dope. We have dope merch. And also check out our books, because we got some of that going on too. Love you all so much. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Of course, if you, as always, if you want to see how many people go into making this what it is, please stay tuned and catch these credits. I'm going to holler at you later. Until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and stay beautiful if you can. Holla.
I was living my life in the servitude of misunderstandings of people I loved. Giving it all, it was never enough. Because of the fall, I could never get up. I moved on from their misunderstandings. I am no longer standing under them. I was drowning, now I